right. Back. It's the Modern Relics.
We are live.
Podcast.
You're
We're
alive.
Here. I'm alive. I made it. Just. We're here. We did do a live stream. Thanks for those that stopped by
You're
last
on mute,
week,
bro. Oh wait, no.
Yeah.
There you are.
You can hear me, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. There we are. Yay!
Yeah. Stream can hear me too. Perfect. Yeah, man. So thanks for stopping by the live stream. We did one Tuesday. I was like, I don't know, 5 hours away from catching a flight, so it was a short one. I didn't even put the audio back up on our regular pod download stations, so we might have a behind the times episode come out later because I wanted to get off the plane, come home. It's Tuesday again, and do another one. So we're here. Thanks for joining. If you came Tuesday, we're back again today. So we're both on the heels of travel.
Yes.
You leaving
home.
here, me coming here. Rock, paper, scissors. Go.
I got home at around midnight last night, and then immediately got up and had to go to work because I had an appointment to go over some designs, and then a tattoo appointment immediately. So I'm running on fumes. You literally are like the door barely shut behind you when you started this stream.
Yeah.
So
it feels like the same day as when I left here Friday morning at like whatever. I think I was picked up at 4:05 in the morning by the cab. We just walked back in the door. I haven't even washed the Seattle, Washington off of me yet. So what you see is what you get. Fresh off the plane. Yeah.
And that's a sticky grime.
It is.
That's gross.
You know what's funny is like the very first thing you notice is I left here, it was like 100 degrees, 2% humidity. And then I land there, it's like 94% humidity. It's 55 degrees and actively raining with 88% chance of rain for the rest of the week. So it's like, oh my God, you're just wet the whole time. Like the whole time you're just wet. Yeah.
That is awful. Yeah. That's so gross.
And then you notice all the like, crazy folk around. I walked you through a bit of a slideshow on how the trip went. Maybe we'll use it for like social media fodder.
Yeah, because it's fascinating because you seem to collect all of the things that we seem to point at and collectively complain about that area and all of its absurdities, and you seem to hit them like dominoes throughout the entire trip and documented it. Yeah. So that's pretty wild. Some of the stuff had me like rolling with laughter because it was just pure absurdity in its finest Seattle form. Yep. And
in the land of raindrops and gender neutral bathrooms, our young hero survived 4 days in the wilderness, as it were. Yeah, a lot of uppity people, a lot of big price tags. I mean, $55 to park.
Yeah, that was obscene. And obscene. Like I forgot how much it sucked to try to park in that city for one, but for two, how expensive it was. Like it's just expensive just to park anywhere there, but it's gotten exponentially worse. Yeah. And it was kind of mind blowing because I was, in your neck of the woods last week, and I'm driving around, and I went into a couple of places downtown. Like I went into like a parking garage that was right off the strip. I went into a parking garage that was over off of the Fremont area. And I think the one on the strip cost me $11 for the couple of hours I was there. The one on Fremont was $5. I was like, wait, they must have gotten this wrong. But they didn't. It's just, and also they're just easy to park in. Everywhere there is easy to park. But
other notable things on the price tag, just as it were. So, the tomahawk steaks that I'm fond of smoking here at the house, typically feeds to. Yeah. So I was at a birthday dinner and they had a tomahawk steak dinner and the plate was $160. And I was like, wow, I can make 4 4 or 5 tomahawks at home, feeding almost 10 people for that. Jesus. Yeah. So it was a very stark reminder of like how expensive, you know, an $8 Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. Like, what is going on here? There's a lot.
What does it say about the city, the metropolitan area you live in? And we'll just use Seattle as an example because it tends to be our, you know, our favorite kicking
punching
goat.
bag. Yeah.
Yeah. But what does it say about your city when, you know, Las Vegas as a whole, unless you're like, you know, in the airport or something, as a whole, generally is cheaper than where you're at. Now, when I was on the shuttle after I dropped off my rent-a-car, the shuttle driver was one of those charismatic, like talking through the, you know, and just making jokes and being friendly. And one of the jokes he made is like, I bet you're all looking forward to going home where everything is a regular price. And I was like, actually, that joke doesn't land anymore.
Yeah.
Most of these people are going to cities where it is more expensive in the city than it is at the Vegas price. And it shouldn't be that way. You should expect to go to Vegas and go, you know what? We just know things are just more expensive here. It's like going to Disneyland, but it's a whole city. Yeah. You know, and you should just kind of understand that. And the fact of the matter is, I spent less money there than I would have ever spent in Seattle, and especially now. So, you can't live in those cities and survive.
That is true. Hello back to Cynthiana Faster. Thanks for joining the podcast tonight. Fresh off the airplane and underslept both of us from travel. Welcome.
Yes, we are.
So, where to begin? Because we had a lot of stuff that we wanted to cover, and like last Tuesday, we definitely got a chance to kind of, I guess, vent a little bit for 45 minutes to an hour about some DNC stuff that I thought was hilarious on retrospect. But we do have
things
some
have
stuff
come to light since then too.
Yeah.
So let's knock this out because I really want to get to Breakdancing Girl.
I really
want to get to some movie reviews. Yeah. But I also want to get to some of your travel stories. Yeah. And so, but what I really we need to kind of nail a few things down because things have happened since our last pod, which was in the middle of the week last week. So, but for instance, like I don't, you know, at that point, Trump had not engaged, for lack of a better term, with Kennedy, and so now he's taking Kennedy on. Kennedy's trying to stay on in non-battleground states and get off on battleground states. They're not letting him. Wisconsin and Michigan said, nope, he has to stay on no matter what. And he's like, I'm refusing to be on it. And they were like, we don't care. But now he's getting people like Brett Weinstein. He's getting people like Tulsi Gabbard, obviously. He's getting like he's collecting all of these kind of middle of the road kind of Democrats that have been outed by their, you know, far left extremist people, and they're going, we don't have a home, but this guy's making more sense than that lady, and so we're going to actually move in this direction. Elon Musk, all these people are all kind of pushing for this. It actually kind of terrifies me a little bit, because of the fact that with that kind of momentum, there's no way to fake a win for Kamala Harris. So they're not going to let this guy win. So it's either Kamala Harris in the White House or it is something else, which is not a Trump presidency. They cannot allow that man. But right now the momentum is so big that there's just no way that they can even pretend to fake. You know, like, you know that we know that you know that we know kind of scenario. They can't even do that anymore. They can't even pretend as if like there's some wiggle room somewhere. The momentum is too strong, and the collaboration of all of these different media heads and huge people that are all kind of filing under Trump now. What are they going to do?
Well, and I kind of touched on it a little bit last time we spoke about there's a non-zero number of people that are not Trump supporters that are likely going to vote that way anyway, just based on the economics of where we're at right now. Like we can't outlast spending the way that we've been spending the last 4 years. And something's got to give. So I think there's I don't know if you would call that the silent middle or the not so radicalized left or whatever, but I think all bets are off if somebody like Bill Maher jumps over. He's like, enough, because he feels like he's getting close over the last few interviews I've watched, especially the Crenshaw one.
But, there's quite a few of those that are, but
it's wild.
One of the encouraging things, and this is a calculation I don't think has really come into play or into the understanding of play for the Harris side, is that one of the surprising things while I was down in Vegas is I'm working for somebody else's shop. I'm not going to bring up politics.
Right.
It's just uncouth and unprofessional. So I just don't do it. And unless they bring it up to me. Turns out, the owner of the shop, it has very similar views. So when nobody else was in the shop, we talked a lot. But when people are in the shop, we know not to do that. However, all of the people that I tattooed were all under the age of 25, every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And without exception, every single one of them brought up politics, and every single one of them not only brought up politics, but they were
pro-conservative leaning.
Yeah, they eased into it, but then they were like, yeah, we're voting for Trump. Like, our lives were better. Our parents' lives were better. We've seen our parents lose everything in the last 4 years. It's insane. We don't want these people anymore. This is crazy. The world's gone into absolute lunacy, and we want nothing to do with it. They're rejecting it. And what's crazy is that, of the group that I tattooed over the course of a week, 70% of them were Hispanic kids. Mm-hmm. So, they're even like, no, screw these people. We want nothing to do with it. And it was unprovoked. It was unsolicited information. They brought it to me and started bringing it up. Now, whatever it is about my personality or whatever that people feel comfortable to talk about this kind of stuff, I don't know the dynamic there, but it is something that people do weirdly open up to me about. And it was jarring. It was eye-opening because I didn't expect it in that area, especially. But it was pretty crazy. I was shocked, and I also shocked to find out that out of the probably dozens of shops that I went to this week, a dozen or so shops, maybe 10 to 12, probably 70% of them, if I stayed long enough in their lobby and talked to them, that the ones that I talked to for a long period of time, they all kind of beat around the bush, but ended up getting to a point where they were giving me indicators of their political leanings.
Right. Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, they're on board the Trump train too. Like, it is wild. The more people I met down there, the more I realized that there's a bunch of groundswell people that are like, shh, I can't say much, but this is actually what's going on.
Well, I think that, that's also kind of common courtesy too. I'll probe a little bit without actually because if this blows up in my face, it's going to be awkward for the next, 2 hours or however long. But I also think that people are probably frustrated that they're being told they can't think for themselves. And it's pretty overt. Nope. Donald Trump is the end of democracy. Is he though? Because didn't he do this job before?
Yeah,
and we actually didn't have a high unemployment rate then, and the pandemic, of course, but we were stumbling through an economy that was getting better, and consistently so. And then we could kind of crawl, walk, run a little bit right up until this last one. So how can you tell me that that's a lie, you don't remember right because I said so, end of democracy as you know it. And then the only thing that they can really hit people with is this, it's all racism. And are we not tired of hearing all of that yet? And I think people just unprovoked are kind of maybe a little turned off by being told how they can think and what they remember. At least that's when I have conversations with people where it comes to me. That's kind of how things are going more and more. And it's starting to ramp up more and more too. So I think that has to play at least a large part of what we're seeing here. So to your first point about like this overwhelming wave of momentum, if he doesn't win, I mean, how is that going to square? And what institutions are we going to lose faith in now, especially when it comes to the American electorate and how it's counted and all that stuff? Because we've seen the whole election distrust before, but like what?
I think we're in a catch-22 about it. I think that win or lose, they're going to lose. So, and the reason being is that if, let's say, they pull a fast one and Kamala gets installed, because let's say it as it is. She gets installed, and then as she gets installed, what they do is they know that they're in for some trouble, that there's going to be an enormous pushback, which is kind of what they really want, because what they want to do is throw down martial law. So I would guess sometime after November 5th, there will be a declaration of martial law in order to basically suspend habeas corpus and suspend all of our rights while she's already a gun grabber. So she's just looking for an opportunity to take away the Second Amendment. And
what does that do in that situation on the world stage?
That puts us into such a level of disorder that the rest of the world takes.
Yeah, exactly.
They take advantage of us, and they take advantage of the lack of us in other regions of the world. So, it's not going to be good. I think November is going to be a very, very sketchy time. I hope it isn't. I don't want it to be, but I can't see through any form of wisdom, through any form of logic, a way around it. Like, you cannot, no matter who wins the election in November, you have two scenarios. You have one where the guy who's not supposed to win wins, so they throw everything at the wall. Everything. They pull every lever and they go, this man's not, we can't let him be in charge. We just can't. So riots, civil war, all of it. Like, they're just going to throw everything. New pandemic, they're just going to dump their whole treasure trove all out at once. And to the point where I wouldn't even be surprised if they start implementing warfare within our actual, like, with larger bombings and such within our borders, because they have to. They cannot allow this man to actually sit in that chair, because if he does, it's the end of not their plans, not the plans of the United States, but on a global stage, like the people who are at the UN, who are at all of, the WEF, all of these people are all invested in whether or not this man sits in that chair, and they can't allow it. And so they will do whatever it takes. They don't play by the rules. We keep expecting them to, and then we're surprised for 4 years every time they break the rules and get away with it. So we need to stop expecting them to play by the rules and recognize what they're actually doing on a much bigger scale, that the Constitution doesn't mean anything to them like it does to us. The America doesn't mean the same thing that it does to us, to them. And
I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know about I hope to what you said, I hope it doesn't come to that. I truly do.
I don't want it to, but I'm trying to look for any avenue where we get a Trump administration and we get peace, or we get a Kamala administration and we get peace. And I can't for the life of me see it without an enormous amount of submission from one side or the other, and I don't think that exists. I think submission is going to be something that, you know, the Kamala Harris side is going to have to do. They're going to have to go, we lost, bummer, but I can't see that in the cards.
Do you think America is too polarized to accept either candidate's victory?
Mm-hmm. And that's, I mean, I don't want to be black-pilled about it. I don't want to be that guy, because I still, you know, I have a very optimistic look on, because I come from a biblical perspective, so I kind of already have an optimistic look at the end game of all of this, so I can't really be too black-pilled about it. But at the same time, I understand how humanity works, and I understand how, you know, the last 4 years have really painted a very, very clear picture of what both sides are, where they're at, where their limits are, where they're willing to go, and what they're willing to do. You know, if you've paid any attention over the course of the last 4 years, or even let's just say 80 years of buildup, you realize that we are at the cusp of either hopefully a very civil divorce or a very uncivil war, and it's going to be gross. And I don't know what, we're at a snapping point. There's just too much pressure on both sides.
I would have said in 2019, if you were to say that you're high on drugs, you need to go take a walk. But like watching what I watched when I lived in Seattle, just the decay of humanity with one another, even in the early days of the pandemic, was pretty outrageous. And then to try and theorize like where these limits could be found with this polarization, that did not help when we were all just watching YouTube at home, and kind of that positive feedback loop that we've discussed on the show a lot, really drove people to a very blind rage point on both ends. And my only, like, I can't argue the points you're making, but I can hope that you're not right. You know what I mean?
I am in the same bag. I hope I'm not right.
Yeah.
And I will celebrate the fact that I'm wrong.
We just need to work on that national debt, calm down, internalize a little bit, figure out this border stuff, figure out the humanitarian crisis stuff, help out Hawaii.
Yeah.
Take a step back from all these prescriptions we have. And just maybe a big deep breath. That's what I want more than anything else. Let's focus on ensuring that we can transition the next 4 years smoothly. Because if the Dems lose,
spin on this,
how hard do you think it's going to get? Because Trump can only serve for 4 years if he wins.
Right.
How much harder is this polarization going to be for the next one? Because we're kind of on this runaway train. At least it feels that way. Yeah. And to me, I don't see it getting any better if the succession plan is somebody that's harder on the right than Donald Trump is. Because from a policy perspective, I don't think he's super deep right.
It's not.
I think his vice president nomination is more Trump than Trump is when it comes to the big scary red. But I don't know what the next one holds. You know, and years ago, I remember I was talking to my dad, and he asked me what I thought about the election, and I think at that point it was the 2016 spin. And I was like, I think this is the last or maybe second to last president we're ever going to have if things keep spending the way they're spending and how much decay continues to go. I had no idea it was going to get so much worse than even I thought back then. And it might have been a little hyperbolic at the time, but I was like, he's like, well, what do you think we would do? I'm like, fold to the EU? I don't know. There'd be some other option. But this, this rise into everyone needs to essentially become a socialist entity within the borders of America is not going to work for us long term. Certainly will not from an economical perspective, but we will eat each other because that's not what this country was founded on. So I don't know, man. But
well, let me put
we said buckle up. I think that's apt, because I think between now and November it's gonna only get weirder. You know.
Well, let me put a little bit of a positive spin on this, so that way we're not just kind of doom and glooming. I am really happy with him bringing Robert Kennedy Jr. on just for two mere things. One, I hope he puts him in charge of the CIA entirely, which is what he's been asking. So, because what better poetic justice than the guy whose dad and uncle were killed, that he gets to kind of be the boss now, and it's going to be at least fun to watch, if not anything else. But the other thing is putting him in charge of the FDA and NIH and stuff like that, being able to put him, those are his two passion points, so that way we get somebody who actually cares about what harms drugs and medicines are doing to people. So to a point where that's been his biggest passion point, you know, and so I'm looking forward to that. Like it would be fun to watch. It'd be fun to have Vivek Ramaswamy in there throwing axes. It's going to be fun to watch if we do.
Just keep him away from our Constitution.
Who, Vivek?
Yeah. Stop trying to change stuff.
Don't
leave that document alone. Yeah,
I don't want either. I mean, there's certain things that I don't want Robert Kennedy near, like environmental programs. I don't want him near that. I don't want him near.
It's like bowling with the bumpers up, right? You can do this, but here's the bumpers, man.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want him having anything to do with 2A policy at all.
Yeah,
like no, that's not your area, dude. You go over there. So. But so that's been interesting. I have a fun anecdotal story about while I was down there. I was picking up some hats for me and my son, and they have a mall down there that's like right by Caesar's Palace, and it's called Fashion Show, and it's a big mall. So I went in there, and they have a whole bunch of
big golden knights,
right?
Paraphernalia.
So, and I wanted to go in there, so I got those, and then I was leaving, and I was on I'm gonna say the north side of that mall, because it's on Sammy Davis Jr. Boulevard, which is behind. It's kind of an access road for locals and stuff that goes behind the casinos there, and. It's not very wide. It's a very narrow road. It's 2 lanes, and then like 2 lanes on either side, with a very narrow divider strip in the middle. So not like a big wall or a big kind of divider thing. And I was pulling out of the parking lot, and in my tiny little rental car, and I pull up to do a U-turn right there so I can go back and get on the freeway. And I'm at the very front. There's no one behind me. And all of a sudden I pull up, and I'm talking 40 to 50 motorcycle law enforcement, whether they be sheriff or state or local police, all flooded that whole intersection and blocked every way. And then a bunch of SUVs and more motorcycles went zooming past us. All lights go, and they all went down, went right past me and just kept going.
So it's cool the cops can have takeover events, but import cars can't.
Right. Yeah.
Just
total double standard.
Don't do that. That's bad. Yeah.
But we got stuck there it was like 10 minutes in, and they're not letting anyone through this intersection. Sure. And I'm like, this is wild. What is happening? So I called my wife, because I was like, this isn't like a movie star or a rock star or something like that. This is way too much for that. This has got to be political. So I hit up my wife, and I call her, and I'm like, hey, it's like Biden or Harris like in Vegas right now, like doing a stop. And she was like, I don't know, hold on, let me look. And she like gets on her laptop, and she's like, oh no, they're not. Trump is. I was like, what? And as she's saying that, this murdered out like motorcade of all these black SUVs with tinted windows and everything, like a line of them with state troopers in front of them and stuff, and behind them, just come barreling through that intersection and then drive on the road right now. I mean, I was like 6 feet away. I could touch the cars.
Yeah,
and it was Trump going, and apparently Trump drove by and he was going to a restaurant, like some Mexican restaurant, to do a speech about no taxing on tips. And then later on that day, he flew to Arizona and was on stage with Robert Kennedy Jr. So it was pretty cool. I was like, whoa, like I've never been anywhere near something like this.
Yeah.
And it was an impressive display of defense, and it felt like kind of a Jack Ryan movie, you know, like
24 or some shit where
yeah.
That's one thing that, like, if you guys are watching or listening and you've imagined your life in politics, just imagine how brutal the travel is. Like I started my day this morning, last Friday at 4:00 in the morning. Got on a plane, was already working before wheels down, total blur through the weekend, lots of work over at Redacted, and then rushing back to the airport where I flew in, and then I just hopped on this now, and I'm beat. I can't imagine starting your day, I don't know, in the Midwest, flying to have a conversation about tipping in Las Vegas, and then boarding a plane to be on stage and presentable and not fuck up the things you have to say later that day in another state over. You know what I mean? Like, hats off to people that willfully try to do that. I mean, I'm sure it's much more like, I don't know, ease and accoutrement for traveling when you're a politician, but it is tiring shit. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. So you're 6 feet away from the motorcade.
Yeah.
No autographs. No, I'm just kidding.
No, unfortunately, I held the paper out, but like it was too fast. No, Erin was actually pissed at me because she was still on the phone. She goes, "Why aren't you recording this? You're talking to me on the phone. Like, why aren't you actually filming this?" And it's like, she's like, "You're such a Gen Xer," and I was like, "I live in the moment, baby. I live in the moment." And, you know, and she did not find that amusing. Yeah, she's like. So, but yeah, that was a pretty interesting little anecdote to my trip down there. But,
nice.
Yeah, I tried going swimming in your pool, and it didn't work out because I acclimated so dramatically to your 110-degree weather that like 10 o'clock to midnight, when it's still above 90, it was too chilly for me to go swimming. Sure. And I was never experienced that before in my life. And I was like, I went out there and I kind of got in a little bit, but I only got down to my shorts. And I was like, I don't want to be in this water. Yeah. The air is too cold out here for me to get back out. And I was like, nah. So I jumped out and didn't go back in.
The one thing that is like super weird too is so there's I was gifted 1 year's worth of pool cleaning service, which has been super helpful as a Christmas present. And they come on Tuesdays, and the notes we got, in fact, they called me and they were like, "Hey, you don't have water in your pool." And I'm like, "Where did it go?" Because there was a bunch in there when I left, you know? No, I mean, like, there's water in there, but it's like very low, and I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, you could, while you're there, I don't expect you to stay there for hours. You could turn the hose on and put some water in the pool. It's right there next to it. Yeah, okay, I'll do that for a minute. I was just like, okay, cool. So it must have been very windy in the last few days, because what really rips the water apart is when the gusts of wind are just constant, and it does get windy down here, especially in the spring. But yeah, I went out there. It's like pretty low. It's like, oh, okay, well,
it
refill that windy. Guy.
Yeah, the shop I was working at, actually, the door gives a front door, alarm every time, and it was like constantly going off because the wind was blowing it open. The wind was blowing it open. Yeah. So, and the house, it was windy at the house too while you were gone. So I would imagine.
Well, I think
So-
that'd be weird if you keep coming back even through the winter months. You're going to be like, it's so much nicer here. And then you're going to go home and freeze.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be, it was rough, man. When I got off the plane this time, it was below 60.
Yeah.
you know,
So
and I
you're
was
like getting chills and stuff.
yeah, I was like, it's August. It's not October. This is crazy. Like, yeah.
That's how I felt. Like I checked the weather swatch when I left here Friday, and 100 and whatever it was, 103, between 101 and 103, 2% humidity. I land in Seattle, it's 94% humidity, 50 degrees, and actively raining with an 88% chance to rain the rest of the week. You're like, oh God. Oh, it's cold. But I'm glad you acclimated. Sorry the pool didn't work out on a 90 plus degree evening, but there's always next time. So
Yeah, it's fine.
so we've got some stuff to go over. I wanted to talk to you about why breakdancing, first of all, is an Olympic sport.
Why it's even an Olympic sport.
I understand it's not an Olympic sport after this go round.
No, this was the test trial, and it did not go well.
Didn't seem to work, and I think we can blame Australia for that. But the story gets
apparently
pretty deep.
To be fair,
what happened
to be
here?
fair, Australia is not to blame for them getting. Apparently, each city gets to pick like 5 things that they want to do. Australia picked breakdancing, but the next place had already decided not to do breakdancing and replaced it with other things. So she is not responsible for.
She doesn't represent the whole country.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
But she's just plain and simply not responsible for the next Olympics not having breakdancing.
Okay.
I was hoping that was the case, but that is not. So, however, Rachel RayGun.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of late to this story, but I hope they make a TV
they've got a documentary or something.
A documentary about this because it is bananas, and it has gotten crazy because she's gotten kind of litigious over it. She's like threatening to sue people over the idea that she conned the entire Olympics and Australia.
Yeah.
And got herself a free vacation to Paris. And so breakdancing, and I have a dear friend of mine, Zach, who is a school teacher, but he's also was my shop manager at my tattoo shop for a long time too.
Yeah.
And he's one of my dearest friends. And he, back when he was younger and even still kind of dabbles, was a b-boy. He was heavily in breakdancing scenes and is very good at it. And so I have been picking his brain about this and sending him all of the memes, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, because the memes have been pretty damn incredible for this. But she basically set herself up to go there by she has like a doctorate in dance and dance theory, and specifically in breakdancing, and like urban and street dancing. But she set up, when they decided to do this, they didn't have an organization that actually qualified anybody for this type of stuff.
Right.
And so she set one up. And her husband also dances like she does, very poorly.
But
and was her
appointed himself like the coach and the administrative body of the Olympic trial for breakdancing,
and the judge, and so
that's
she
the
beat
part
out
that I can't get over. Like, how does one get away with that?
Yeah, well, she beat out like even people that were significantly better than her in that particular trial, like this girl named Holly Moley and some other ones. There's a whole group out in like northern Australia, this whole group of kids that are really good that got denied accessibility to it.
That's the premise, right? Like, we understand that before the Olympics happened, somehow they had found their way into a position of getting to decide that they were the governing body for the Olympic dance team for breakdancing. They held, to my knowledge, and this is from sporadic sources, and my notes are not with me. They held one tryout at one specific time, kind of local to them, and all the other people from the other parts of Australia couldn't come down, and the ones that could, they had one day. And because her husband is the governing body and the coach, the Olympic coach, and her husband, he kind of just was like, well, my wife gets to go. Yeah. And that's kind of just how that went. And then they just like closed up shop, and that's it. And that's the Olympic team. And I don't even know who else was on the team. Is it a single sport? Was it literally just her?
No, there was other, at least one male, if not more, that were actually pretty good. So like they were actually very good, but I don't even know who won gold. What I do know is she got 0 points. Yeah. 0 points, and then did nothing but smile and party. She partied like crazy. If you're that, if you go to the Olympics and you mess up and you break your leg, like in a skiing thing, it's devastating. It's devastating. But if you go there and do such a terrible job without hurting yourself, you didn't hurt yourself. It wasn't an injury. It wasn't.
There should be some shame in that, right? A little bit of
a mistake. There should be some massive shame in that. And she had 0. She partied her ass off for the rest of the time. There's videos and pictures of her just having a great time. There's 0 shame. She not only got last place, she got 0 points. So that's and deservedly. Like if you watch it, I mean, anybody who's watched these videos recognizes the fact that she was making a mockery of something that takes years of practice and skill, and she had none of it.
She looked like how I would imagine a 7th or an 8th grader would try to do the worm at a school dance.
Right.
Kind of thing. Like I watched the
It was a Will Ferrell sketch. It was like right off of like Old School when he does the little like twirly thing.
Yeah, when I watched this, I thought to myself, like, is she making a mockery of this? Like,
I thought it was a joke. I thought she was the world's coolest troller. I thought she trolled the world.
Yeah, I was like, this has got to be a statement or something. It wasn't.
Right. No, it was all legitimate. She thought that. Yeah, it was just. It is narcissism. But what it does, this is the beauty of what's come out of this, is that anytime anybody says you don't know what you're talking about, trust the experts.
Yeah.
She's now the marker for that because she's the expert. She has the doctorate in it, and like you're like, oh, like a RayGun, like that's the experts we're supposed to trust. RayGun. It's a great marker for that. But
what would your breakdancing name be if you were an Olympian?
Oh, dude, I don't know. Probably something dumb like Lucky Charms.
Yeah, Lucky Charms or Lucky the Laminator. I don't know what that means, but maybe you're dancing on laminate floors.
I only dance on laminate floors.
Right.
Don't get out of here with those hardwood ballroom floors. I want laminate only.
And clearly we're pretty late to this because the memes have been taking over my phone for the last 3 weeks, it seems. But
mostly from me. I'm sorry.
Well, but like what? I mean, they're on the feed. But I think what's really interesting is there's people that are like doing like video, like voiceover stuff and like interviewer style shots where they're like, "I'm really furious, and you should take this seriously, and you should be furious because here's all the rules that they just invented." And they took advantage of a lot of people that probably would have really made a run at this and made a mockery of the entire thing. And it's going to prohibit other people from being able to bring Olympic sports to, hey, can we do this as an Olympic sport type of thing? You know, bring their sport into the forefront of like, this could be a world-class thing. And they're right.
Right, because
they're super right. And it's like, man, that sucks. But I've seen some online petitions. I've seen
Well, what's crazy
lawsuits,
is
like all kinds of crazy shit.
she petitioned the government to get the petition taken down.
Yeah.
And that petition started before the Olympics. They already were on to her before that.
Yeah.
And so if you read the original petition, which we did, and it was basically like now she's going to the Olympics because of this.
Right.
And
well, you sent me the petition, but it was already yanked.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I got to it like 20 minutes after you sent it to me, which I thought was wild.
It was crazy. We had seen it the night before, and I had sent it to you and Zach.
Yeah.
And went, hey, dude, check this out. And then neither one of you could see it because they had taken it down because she had pitched such a fit to the Australian government, and it was making the Australian government look bad. Yikes. So like they were on board with her going, yeah, we need to yank this down. So but yeah, it's crazy. There's no way they don't make a Netflix series out of this. There's no way.
Yeah,
they have to. Like it, and I'm sure that there's many other details to this lady's life that are going to be fascinating because there's no way this is the first time that she's pulled some of this insane narcissistic.
I don't even know how one gets a doctorate in this. Like, I'm certain it exists.
Yeah.
I'm not denying that. But, like,
it's
of all the things, I want to be a doctor when I grow up. Really? A doctor of what? Breakdancing.
Yeah.
Feels weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just feels weird.
But I mean, you made a valid point at the beginning, and Zach, I don't know if Zach would agree with this, but I agree with you on it that I don't think it should be at the Olympics. There's certain things that I think should be at the Olympics and certain things that I don't. And this is one of them.
Hey, look,
there's skill. I think it's great to watch.
My understanding is that like things like snowboarding and skateboarding and different stuff, like there is Olympic skiing, and the Winter Olympics has their own, smorgasbord of activities, and the long jumpers. And these are very talented people too. But like, freestyle snowboarding and all this stuff, like my understanding is that these tried their best to be like, hey, there's a ton of professionals at this, there's a lot of big companies behind them that would love to put together a world team, or a national team to compete at a world stage and blah blah blah, and they were like, nah, not gonna happen. So the X Games was kind of born, and that's sort of the Olympics for extreme sports and stuff, which I guess makes kind of a second place sense because these people make a lot of money at it and there's sponsorship deals and whatever. Great, that worked out. But how does breakdancing get into, you know what I mean? Like, of all the things one would imagine they would say no to, I would probably take street and vert skateboarding because it's incredible what some of these people can do on a skateboard as an Olympic sport way before I would consider breakdancing, right? Like, that's just me, though.
I would imagine that breakdancing really actually belongs more in the X Games category.
Exactly
anyway.
my point. Yeah, like, if anything should be, like, moved over into the, counterculture,
it should have started there at the very least. It should have at least taken a couple of years at the X Games and went, oh, hey, look, this is actually kind of a popular thing and it's really skilled. And if the Olympic committees decided to pluck it out of the X Games, that's one thing. But like the fact that Paris was just like, let's put breakdancing on the card and
plus
see what happens.
Most Olympic sports have like trials before the Olympics where you can set times and get ready for the big Olympic thing. This definitely wasn't that, which is all the more perplexing to me that it was able to just get created, pushed forward, and then kind of made a pretty bad impression on everybody that watched. 0 points is rough. I mean, she didn't even get a point for putting her name on the paper. You know what I mean? That's rough.
Yeah.
That's rough. So I don't know, but I hope with the amount of evidence that seems to be piling up about the deceitful nature of how this came to be, that there is some sort of punishment, like maybe it's a lawsuit, maybe it's not. Like, I don't think people's lives should be ruined because somebody else was greedy, but it was, and there they are, and now they're able to just get petitions moved down because they're pissy-pantsy about it. seems fucked up to me. So I don't know.
I think that there should be some type of monetary repercussions
least,
that
right?
she should have to pay. I think that there should be a banning from the Olympics.
At least.
I think that there's certain steps that can be made to admonish her for her actions and for her behaviors without like ruining her life.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, like something needs to be done, or this is going to be a every 2-year thing. People are going to start pulling Rachel RayGuns at every Olympics.
That's
you know. And so if it's not...
Which we're both on record as saying we kind of don't care about the Olympics. It's like a whatever.
Right, it's very true.
Ultimately, I don't care.
In fact, if the entire Olympics was filled with Rachel RayGuns, I might actually be more supportive.
Many, many, many other people worldwide care very much about the Olympics.
They really do.
And I think it was enough to sour them on the integrity of the Olympics as an organization. So... Anyway, Jesus. But we had to get our 2 cents in on this one because
it was a couple weeks in the coming, but we've been going back and forth with our thoughts on this and memes on this for a while. So it just felt too much in the ethos for us not to at least tackle, even if it's a bit late. So, but yeah. Outside of what was the there were some things that we wanted to discuss.
Yeah.
And that was one of them. And the other one was, I do believe, your feelings on the Deadpool Wolverine movie, because you saw that.
Yeah. I finally saw it.
I saw it and I shared my feelings on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very fascinated as to your perspective on it. So
it's incredible to me that like the whole idea of Ryan Reynolds getting the first Deadpool made was basically due to the fans' outcry, and they marketed it well enough where that's exactly what they wanted, was people to just bombard the rights holders to these characters to allow this to go through, and then they did. And it was wildly successful. It was wildly successful. And so the second one came out, which was pretty good. It wasn't like absolutely incredible, but it was very much on the Fox side of the IP, right?
For sure.
With all the X-Men and stuff like that. Now, I knew going into this movie that Big Marvel did this. This had Kevin Feige's name on it. This was Disney Marvel. This had a proper budget, and the way that they executed it was so much better than I imagined it would be, because like you guys have listened to me absolutely rip apart the Acolyte series and where Disney has taken the Star Wars franchise and they are beating the Marvel franchise into the ground. I'm not a big fan of the multiple timelines, the multiverse bullshit, which there really is no other way to write that many movies around it without having that as a MacGuffin to continue to center these stories around. But the way they took a very flippant attitude toward, we're doing this, it's going to be part of the multiverse. This is how we're going to get away with it. And now that Disney's at the reins, they're going to absolutely dishonor the Logan memory of the Wolverine part of this. Like, you'll be doing this till you're 90. Like all the jokes, the Kevin Feige said no cocaine, like they're breaking the fourth wall. They're taking horrendous shots, not only at 20th Century Fox, but also at Disney at the same time.
Oh, yeah. You came in at a low spot.
To a wild degree where it was so overt, but it wasn't the woke mafia the way I expected it to be and stuff. And there was enough recurring characters in there that made the storyline feel like it was right at home, while introducing the greatest stack of cameos from old Marvel IP I have ever seen aggregated in one film. And it was done so well. Like, I thought to myself, and this will be spoilers if you guys haven't seen it, but when they introduce what we're led to believe is Captain America, and it's not, it's what is it, Johnny Blaze from Fantastic Four? Because
the Human Torch.
Because Chris Evans ends up, you know, if you guys don't remember, played that character way before he was Captain America. They brought in our boy Wesley Snipes as Blade. Oh my God, the hits just kept on coming. They played all the hits in such a right way. I was elated with how funny and awesome that was. The opening sequence to In Sync, like, I mean, everything about this movie was like a massive fuck you from the early millennial generation. That I thought it was just beautifully done.
Yeah, they really. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad that that was your perspective. Fun. But it didn't skip a beat. Everything was meticulously written in that film to be a source of enjoyment. Every line, every frame, they did. It was so seamless in the fact that if you missed a spot, you actually missed significance in the film. And they did such a perfect tapestry of humanity mixed with humor, mixed with good storytelling, mixed with fourth wall breaking, mixed with just the pacing was perfect. You were pulled through the movie seamlessly without there being like a lull or a break, or you felt like, and anytime that there was downtime, like the scene where Logan was talking with the girl, Weapon X girl, Laura, and it's a kind of a down moment, but it almost felt like you needed it as a kind of
take a deep breath
resting point, so we can launch back into more like amazingness.
The one thing that I was like cringing at is when they reveal it's Cassandra Nova, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not going to go well for Deadpool if this is the villain at all. On paper, there's no way. There is no way. And it's great that they worked that storyline out where it's like he's in her periph, but that's not where her ire is directed, and that's how the rest of the movie unfolds. And I was like, even that was clever, because you know, if you're going to get into a boxing match between Deadpool and Cassandra Nova, it's going to last 3 seconds.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, that was really well done, because you had commented in one of our earlier pods, like they picked the perfect bad guy for this. The way they executed it was even better, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and it was beginning to end a love story to the comics.
Yeah.
It was a love story to cinema. It was a love story to the to that franchise in and of itself. It was a love story to Logan. It was a love story to Deadpool. It was a love story to the Marvel franchise in all of its good and bad.
Yeah.
And it was probably one of their best movie to date. I hate to give it that title, but so far I can't really find anything that really trumps it.
Yeah, I mean, Iron Man won for the shock factor of what they're capable of, and how well that was done. In this, they're like very Mount Rushmore of big Marvel movies. It's on there for sure for me too. I hate the multiverse bullshit, the TVA stuff. I couldn't get through all of Loki. It was
I couldn't either.
Really, really challenging to keep my attention in that, because I'm like, this is just a mess, and they can write their way out of whatever the hell they want. Even if they fuck up, they can write their way out of it, because this big MacGuffin, it's not entertaining to me. So the way they wove that, like it was woven into that, but it was what drove the plot, but it wasn't the central theme of it, I thought was great.
Yeah. So, well, good. I'm glad. How many megs did you give this thing?
Because it's a Marvel, it loses a few megs, because I'm overall not super high on Marvel movies. As a standalone film, the way I would say Blade was a cool standalone trilogy in the Marvel universe that had nothing to do with Big Marvel, because Big Marvel didn't exist when they made those movies. I would put it on par with that for entertainment value, going, well, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna go strong and give her a solid 8 megs, because I laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed until the credits rolled in that movie, and it was great. And even when you read the credits, some of the names of the people written in the credits, several pages deep, are inside jokes from the movie's dialogue and stuff. That they're not real people. It's like the I don't remember exactly what he says, but it was like, imagine he says a line like the blah, 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 no talent ass clown. Well, written in between actual human beings that worked on the script is the no talent ass clown. And like, so there's like several of those throughout even the credits. It was just proper. It was done. So I'd say 8 megs for me.
Let me see if I can eke out a half a meg from you. And the reason why is that the news that the Acolyte got canceled will not see a season 2. Yeah. And so another knock to Disney, Marvel, Star Wars. And so they're making strides into hopefully steering both franchises, Star Wars and this, hopefully back to profitable normalcy. And
I don't know how they're going to do it, because for as much as Kevin Feige giveth, he taketh away. Like his name is directly responsible for also some of the worst Marvelisms that we've seen. And then you look at the Lucasfilm piece of this, and for the Lucasfilm piece of this, it's like, okay, we seem to have somebody in, and I forget his name. He was even in Deadpool and Wolverine. The guy that plays Happy, the chauffeur.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also wrote and did the Mandalorian.
Jon Favreau.
So if that's so successful, and he seems to care an awful lot about staying true to the ethos of the Star Wars universe, and has treated his part in the Marvel universe with very much dignity and respect, I'd like to see Bob Iger appoint somebody outside of who we've seen to actually give me some hope. We're going to keep steering it in a bigger and brighter direction. Is it a win? Yeah. I'm not discounting the fact that before the final credits rolled on season 1 of The Acolyte, they canceled season 2. Thumbs up. That was the best thing you could do. But I really want to see them give these franchises somebody who can respectfully try to rebuild what's been damaged and take it into a direction that the fans are truly going to be excited about. No one can be perfect. I'm not expecting perfection, but you have to imagine if you sign on to do that job, you will be expected to deliver perfection by the rabid fans of these franchises. And you have to understand that comes with part of the territory. So
nothing short of putting Kathleen Kennedy into the airlock and hitting the big red button.
Exactly that, right? You've got to get rid of these Leslie Headlands and Kathleen Kennedys, and I'm not saying it's got to be Jon Favreau and it's got to be whatever, but like Feige's got to figure this out, because where they're going with how this is like kind of spidering out into these almost B and C class heroes from the comic books on the Marvel side. And the overt damage, the pile of rubble that is left over at Lucasfilm, like I want to see a strategic direction being changed. And I'd say Kathleen Kennedy, Leslie Headland, Bob Iger, even get them out. Like put somebody or a team of somebodies that care deeply about this in. Which I will not answer your question and ask you a question: who would you appoint at Lucasfilm to try and fire extinguish what's gone on there so far? And where do we go from there? Because I imagine the way out of this nightmare is to actually start writing stuff that is included in the extended universe books and creating storylines that people actually care about, because they were so starved for content between the original trilogy and where we're at now. That was a very robust. I mean, you're the Star Wars guy between the two of us. That was a really robust and well-fed universe for a while there. Like, who do you give the keys to Lucasfilm, and where do you go from here?
I mean, Timothy Zahn is somebody who wrote the Heir to the Empire series, and that was considered canon up until Disney bought Star Wars. So, and I would say that you should definitely bring him on board in some capacity. Who I would put at the helm Man, that's hard to say because at this point we're so lost in the sea of like people who don't understand Star Wars, and like you can't even put um Lucas back in charge of that because he doesn't really even understand his own world at this point. So that would be a rough one. I would say who, like somebody from, what's that guy's name? He, his name's Chris something, and he's a skinny little nerd guy who does TV shows like The Walking Dead. Like after The Walking Dead, they did like a interview show. What was that guy's name?
Yeah. I think he got canceled. But yeah, I know what you mean.
He did get canceled, but he got like exonerated from his cancellation because it turned out all to
he
be
did
fake.
the Talking Dead show, and he did a couple other ones. Yeah.
So somebody of that caliber who understands the ethos really well and has the producer credits, understands the writing, understands that kind of stuff, I would actually really welcome somebody like him in that capacity. It doesn't have to be him, but somebody like him, somebody who's known in the kind of TV scope or personality type that is known for being invested in the Star Wars culture, that would do a phenomenally better job, because any skill set that Kathleen Kennedy has as a lifelong producer of such things obviously isn't playing to her skill sets or her benefits within this realm. So get her out of it. Like, put her in rom-coms somewhere, put her in other production houses that aren't involved in this kind of stuff, because she doesn't care. She hates this stuff.
Yeah.
So give her, you don't have to like cancel her or fire her, just give her other projects that better suit her.
Would you be opposed to building a super team of Hollywood folks in maybe atypical capacities to help work on Lucasfilm? Because the one guy I happened to watch maybe a 2-3 weeks ago, some old interviews with Kevin Smith, right? And the level of detail that he goes into with where things went awry in certain parts of the universe. It's like, look, I know you're terrified because you're open about it to direct something like a Star Wars film or whatever. You'd be fucking awesome as a writer. Like, what if we we gave you a couple episodes on an upcoming series to write with and start to like just pull in some people that respect the IP a lot and then kind of build a super team out of that?
Kevin Smith would be awesome.
Well, at least as a writer, right? Like, I don't know as a director where he would take that, but
the problem is though, he's too susceptible to the woke stuff too.
Yeah.
He'll feel the pressure of that. I want somebody who's not. Like, that's why that Chris guy who got canceled and then uncanceled because it wasn't true, that guy's got a bone to pick with kind of that woke stuff.
Yeah.
I would say that he's, not going to succumb to it. He already dealt with that fire, and so he's not going to have to really be afraid of the fire anymore. So he will actually be somebody who
Chris Hardwick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think he'd be somebody who respects and loves the IP. I think he's somebody that understands the history of it, and somebody who's a good writer. He understands TV production. He's been in the TV business for 30 years. Time. Yeah, so like, it's something that I think that would fit the bill for somebody like him. Now, Kevin Smith, he loves the IP. He loves that stuff. But he is, because of his daughter and because of other things within the industry, the guy has been very susceptible to kind of woke ideologies and being preachy in films, that when he gets away with it, he can do it. I mean, he did that whole Red State horror movie, where, stuff like that. He is known for being that. I do appreciate a good Kevin Smith script when it's done well.
Yeah, I wonder if the creative license would be reined in with respecting the IP under some boundaries. But yeah, point taken, for sure.
Yeah. So, and we may just end up getting a lighter version of Kathleen Kennedy with him, and that's what I'd be afraid of. But I think there are people out there. I'll have to put some thought into it because, we all kind of just lean on Jon Favreau because everything the man touches is awesome. So, putting him in charge of Star Wars, I think, would be the best thing Star Wars ever did. However, the guy is not a franchise pony. He loves Marvel. He loves Star Wars, but he also loves doing movies about chefs. He also loves doing movies about other things. And as long as he's not tethered entirely, but I don't think you're allowed to be anything else. Like, I don't think Kathleen Kennedy's allowed to produce anything outside of the Star Wars universe. I think contractually she has to. So you have to find somebody who's so in that he's willing to be there, willing to be whoever it is, willing to be in for good. And be like somebody who's going to steer this ship for 15 years and not work on any other projects, so.
Which is a lot to ask of pretty much anybody, unless this is like their ultimate dream pinnacle job.
Which is another checkpoint in Chris Hardwick's box because, like, what else is the guy doing? So, like, this would be a dream job for him. And I think he would take it seriously. I think he would do it for the sake of the love of the IP rather than trying to push a message. I think that he would absolutely be somebody who has the chops to do it. So I don't know. That's kind of my vote. But my wife would vote the same thing too. She's always had kind of a weird crush on that guy.
I think we could probably come back in a future show and like deliver who we would have, the 5 or 10 names we would have around both of these franchises. I'd be interested to see how that draft would go.
Because we could do this for Marvel too.
Of big time. Yep. So anyway, that's all my my take on Deadpool and Wolverine. I did end up watching it twice. I saw it again on Sunday this week.
Oh, nice.
It was great. So
you saw it with
saw it alone and then saw it with some friends and then over the birthday weekend, and it was a good time. It was a really good time. So I enjoyed it. I would like to know where they go next, because I imagine it's probably making money and they're probably going to make a fourth one, but
they'd have to. Yeah. With that kind of payday, there's just no way to get around it. You're not just going to go, well, that was a great chunk of money. Let's not make any more.
Yep.
But I watched something that you had already seen and told me about. And I was really excited to watch it, but it's still in the theaters. And I happened to ride on 2 planes that allowed me to watch theater movies. So, and I was like, oh, I want to watch this because you and I are both huge fans of a particular director. And so,
I like Tarantino. I like Guy Ritchie.
Yeah. And Guy Ritchie, you and I are on the same page with Guy Ritchie.
And Ryan Johnson.
I will kill you.
Brick was good. Glass Onion was all right.
I was actually begged and pleaded. My daughter begged and pleaded with me over and over again to watch. What was the first one of the Glass Onion?
Knives Out.
Knives Out.
Yeah.
She went to see it with friends in the theater, and it took a year for her to convince me because I was like, no, it's Ryan Johnson. He ruined Star Wars for me forever.
He's a round-headed simpleton. That said, he does write very clever whodunits, and they are fun to watch. Right. So if he stays in that lane,
Out was good.
Yeah.
So Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie, I'm a huge fan of everything the guy's touched, from his Lock, Stock days to his Sherlock days, to his, even his King Arthur stuff was great. I love all of if the man touches a movie, I'm pretty much going to watch
Revolver,
it.
Rock and Rolla, I've watched all of his films. Yeah.
Right. So Snatch is one of my all-time favorites. All of these, the man could do no wrong in my book so far. Now his latest venture was this wonderful film, and I'm just going to say it out front. It was wonderful. the Ministry of Ungentlemenly Warfare.
Yeah.
And it is basically an action dark comedy with a great cast, and it's a World War II movie. The British military recruit a small group of highly skilled soldiers to strike against German forces behind enemy lines during World War II. And it is every single bit, because you and I vary a little bit on Tarantino, because I hated Inglourious Bastards because I wanted more Inglourious Bastards, and I didn't want all the subplots and all the forced Tarantino dialogue within the framework of a period piece. This gave me everything that Inglourious Bastards didn't,
right?
And I loved it. It was snarky in the greatest kind of Guy Ritchie sense of snark. It had a great cast, and the cast. Henry Cavill leads the cast as this
in a very weird Henry Cavill that we've not yet seen, which I really am enjoying the amount of range that this guy can produce. Because even when he was in one of the Mission Impossibles opposite Tom Cruise, he was phenomenal in that. Even in that setting, I'm a big fan of this guy. I watched the Witcher series with him in it. Super good times. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, and he's pretty much become the go-to guy for, big strong dude with range.
So the quick question, because you watched the Jack Reacher. Now, the guy that plays the Danish Hammer in this movie is playing Jack Reacher, right? That's the same dude?
Alan Richson,
Love him in this movie, too.
He was great.
Yeah.
And when given the right roles, this guy's fantastic. In fact, speaking of range, this guy, Alan Richson, I don't really care for his personal life and his politics.
Sure.
He picks a lot of crazy movies for the type of politics that he has. So my guess is that he spent most of his life chasing the Hollywood dragon and not really understanding real life.
Yeah.
And but the first time I ever saw this guy was in Smallville. He played Aquaman in Smallville. And then after that, he was in a TV comedy college football series called Blue Mountain State, and he was hilarious in that. He was this big dumb jock guy that was constantly high-pitched screeching and running around and being really over dramatic, and he was really, really solid in that comedically. And then he was in the next thing I saw him in was the Titans TV series that I think I reviewed a while ago.
Yep.
And he played Hawk of Hawk and Dove, and he plays this kind of recovering alcoholic, regular guy that just gets the tar beat out of him. He has an ending scene that it was really one of the key pivotal moments in the series. He did a phenomenal job in that and showed a lot of range and showed a lot of different kind of emotional ability. And then he played the stoic Jack Reacher in the Reacher series. And so he's been really great. And the weird thing is he's always been huge, but he seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And he's a damn monster in this movie. He's every bit of an action star that you needed back in the 80s and 90s in today's form. And it's incredible.
Him and Dave Bautista are the two guys where you're God damn it, I think he's bigger than he was in the last movie I saw him in. Yeah.
So, but this cast was actually fleshed out. Those two guys being kind of your main heavy hitters. But I mean, it even had Carrie Elwes in it. It had, and I really like Babs Alusonamokin. I'm butchering that name, but he's been in the Dune movies and stuff, and I've been really enjoying him. I've never seen Eiza Gonzalez before. I don't know where she's from. And then there's Henry Golding and Hero Finds Tiffin. There's a lot of people that
I think these are the pool of British actors that he's gonna. because Guy Ritchie brings a lot of the London underground, gangster lingo into a lot of his stuff, and he likes pulling from the same pool of actors over and over again, and he'll get a few A-listers here and there. But I think it's probably a new stable for Guy Ritchie to pull from, because I hadn't heard of them either. But the other guy, the blonde guy, I think you mentioned his name, that plays Ian Fleming.
Oh, yeah. No, that's Freddie Fox.
Yeah, Freddie Fox and stuff. Like, I've seen him. I don't remember where, but it was another English show.
I love that. I love that addition to this. How it's basically the inspiration for all the 007 stuff.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's Ian Fleming. Like, he wrote the James Bond film and like carried a position in British intelligence in World War II. Cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he had a lot of deep cuts that like kind of bubbled to the surface, but they were in very nonchalant ways. It wasn't like, super tipping the cap to it, but it was super well done. I loved every minute of that movie.
Yeah, I did too. Alex Pettyfer, who played Jeffrey Appleyard, the guy that they rescue off the boat, right? I was like, who is this guy? I kind of recognize him, but I don't. So I looked it up, and there's a movie that came out, I don't know, probably 10 years ago or so, called I Am Number 4, about an alien kid.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's that kid.
Yeah.
It's the same guy. Yep. The floppy, curly-haired kid from that. He looked totally different as a full-grown man.
Yeah.
But like he was fantastic in it as well. He played kind of the brains of the operation, like the planner. Mm-hmm. And he was fantastic in it too. Cast aside, like, because the cast we could talk about all day long. They did such a great job in this film. It was fun. Yeah. Man, was it fun. Just every scene was just a romp of like nonchalant violence where I've never and it's basically, the story is based around essentially Winston Churchill puts together this Black Ops team. Mm-hmm. And this Black Ops team and it all came from the documentation that came out from Churchill's records.
Recently declassified. Yeah,
in 2016. And it's basically the origin story of your first ever kind of operator teams.
Yeah, it's kind of like the folklore genesis of MI5, MI6 kind of stuff. Yeah And
man, it was beautiful. It was beautifully shot. It was a great film. I actually it was fun, but it was
chat says Aisha Gonzalez is in Baby Driver as Darling, if you two know that. And that is one movie it's on my list, but I haven't seen it.
It's on mine too. I'll have to watch it. The fact that that commenter has seen that, mm-hmm. And I haven't, is a little disturbing, and I'm going to have a word with him when I get upstairs.
Perfect.
But but I do think that there were points where it lulled a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like, it was not as kind of, because you expect a certain pace from Guy Ritchie films where it's just like punch, 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 and it just kind of skips you through these kind of like jolting scenes. And it was a totally different pace for this movie than a normal Guy Ritchie film. And I appreciated it, but I wanted maybe a little bit more depth to the plot, but then I gave that up and went, you know what? I'm just having fun with this.
Yeah. And I think he did take a swag at like more of a Tarantino helicopter view of let's move this thing along, because normally Guy Ritchie is very known for specific points in the movie where dialogue between people that know each other really well, where it does that like talking head whip around coverage of each of them saying something as part of the conversation, and then usually the camera will flip upside down and it will pan into something else as they become narrators and shit. There was a lot less of that and a lot more of like the helicopter view, let's just move this thing along. So for that, I could see where I might have liked a deeper cut or like a a director's cut or an extended something where we get to see what was left on the cutting room floor, because I imagine some of that was in there. That's what he does in every film. But it was super fun, and I also like seeing the guy from Inglourious Bastards that plays Hugo Stiglitz, the turncoat that helps the Allies or whatever, as the main bad guy. He was pretty gnarly in this too, as the main German general, and it was like, wow. But yeah,
it was super menacing in this movie.
Super good though.
But
it was super good.
No,
because so you also saw real quick the Gentleman, the series, right?
Not the series, just the movie. I haven't watched the series yet.
So the movie is the way to start. So way to go there.
Yeah.
The guy that plays the lead in the series is the lead heartthrob guy. A few years ago, they had these tween books that came out that were part of the Divergent series. It was like,
oh yeah.
Whatever.
It's on fairly frequent replay in our house, the Divergent series. Yeah,
and it's like a whatever dystopian future sci-fi for kids kind of thing. But the main like heartthrob guy in that, plays the lead character in this, and he has some range where it's like, oh, this is cool. I didn't expect to see you in this, So he has a good way to cast these things for sure. But anyway, you should watch the Gentleman series. It's fun.
That is on my list. I might start that tonight because there's not really a lot. That commenter said that he's scared.
I saw that.
And that he's very worried, and that he found it all on Wikipedia.
That's it.
Which I know is a dirty lie.
It's a good way to start to shovel yourself out of that hole and into another one.
But yeah,
in fairness, I did see Alita Battle Angel, and I do remember her in that. So
Alita Battle Angel was fantastic. Bloodshot was actually pretty good too, and Godzilla versus Kong was an atrocity.
Yeah. Jury's out on Bloodshot for me. I like a good Vin Diesel movie, but
I was a fan of the comic, and it kind of. And I like the comic, and so I actually enjoyed the movie a little bit, but it's not a great one, and it's kind of a middle of the road. But anyway,
he was great
as
for
far
Pitch
as
Black. I'll give him that.
Oh, I love all the Chronicles of Riddick movie. It's one of my guilty pleasures.
No, they're so much fun, and I'm not so secretly in love with Thandie Newton still, and she's in one of those movies, and she's great.
Oh yeah,
yep,
yeah. Did you ever watch the Westworld series?
I did. Yeah, because a big fan of the guy that plays Jim Gordon in The Batman, the newest ideation, and Jeffrey Wright. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
I like Jeffrey Wright a lot. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
well, cool. The amount of megs I give.
Yes. How many megs?
I would say probably a solid 8.5.
There you go.
Because it was just a solid romp all the way through, and the teethy half of the Meg.
I'm with you.
But yeah, it was definitely worth every minute of that watch, and it's got a lot of rewatchability too. It's going to be a fun one just to kind of put on whenever, and that's kind of the beauty of the fact that it didn't have an overly complicated plot, is that you can put it on in the background and not have to pay attention to it and actually enjoy it still.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be a lot of rewatchability on this one just for the humor, because the Henry Cavill was hilarious in this because he's just so nonchalantly laughing as he walks into a room full of Germans and just goes and he goes all right. Anyway, and they
if I could sum it up in one word, if it's what did you model your character after, it would be Henri. That was, and he was just abrasive enough in all the best ways throughout the entire film that it was just perfect for the character. So the best part about the experience from my perspective on this film is I'd seen it once, but I bought it on my Xbox dashboard. And we're coming into we're rounding out week 1 of 2 of my dad visiting. My dad's a huge World War II buff. Humongous. And I was like, oh, Pop, you're going to love this movie. And this is his first Guy Ritchie experience. And I just was like, watch this. What do you think? And I'm watching him watch this movie. And there's points where he's what the like that didn't and then he starts to kind of chuckle, and then he sees where it goes, and he's like, oh, he's like, this is like satire but not, but it was really good. Like, that was really fun. Like, yeah, I think he took a few liberties with, revisionist history, but for cinema quality purposes, is good film, huh? He's like, that guy did a really good job with this. That was a lot of fun. I was like, yeah, it's not your History Channel dive in on actual World War II events, Pop.
It's not Band of Brothers, but like
exactly. So, and I knew what he was walking into. He didn't know what he was walking into. That's what made it great. Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm pretty much. I think that's everything I've got. So, can we do some Gen Z?
We could. I don't know where that book is because I just walked in the door.
I know exactly where it's at. It's actually out that door and on the other table, still sitting there.
I moved some stuff. Give me a moment, guys. We'll see if we can find the Gen Z, the Gospel by Gen Z. I'll be right back. We're such a good live streamer as I walk away from the stream.
That's okay. I can keep everybody entertained for a minute. So let's see. I gotta get my cursor over to where it needs to be. I'm such an entertaining guy. Look at this. Yeah. So I fully loved that movie, but I think I'm going to be coming up into October here. We've got one more month, and then October is going to be probably. I think we did this last year too, because we're coming up on a year of us doing this.
Your scary movie-a-thon. I know, dude. We have a lot of episodes out. I want to do something rad for our like 50th. Let me sign in and see where we're at. Podcasts. View. 35, dude.
Got 15 more to go.
Yeah.
And then that's not bad. But yeah, we should do something big for that. We need to get a couple more guests on here too. We should probably look into that. So
I'm slacking. I've got a couple people on standby. I got to get with them.
I could probably find some people too. Like I could find some interesting folks to chat with. So, but
weird. I would love it. So what did we do? Last week live we did the Den of Robbers, did we not?
Yes, we did.
So we're at chapter 20 of this book.
Awesome.
Can you believe it? Chapter 20. Are we ready for this?
Yeah, I need some spiritual edification.
Here we go. Do it. Chapter 20 is the woman at the well.
Yeah.
Jesus was chilling by a well when a baddie pulled up to draw some water. Now their people had beef, so when Jesus asked her for a drink, she found it sus. Holy Bro said, if you knew who I am, you could ask me and I would satisfy your thirst forever. She said, what, are you built different? Because not gonna lie, this well ain't easy to work. Jesus said, this well is a thirst trap. The water I give alters your brain chemistry. She said, bet, for it was noon and hot. Holy Bro said, go bring your husband. I haven't been cuffed yet. Cap, you've been cuffed 5 times. Hey, you must be sent by the divine G. Okay, spill the tea. How do we manifest? Crystals? Zodiac? Like the Egyptians believed the most significant thing you could do in your life was die. Sacred Blood said, you could start by believing the truth. And she replied, whatever, I don't know. The main character will spill the tea. And Jesus said, bruh, I'm him. And she was shooketh and immediately went live and spilled the tea to all the chat nearby. They thought it was sus until they saw him, and then they believed he was the main character. And that's chapter 20, Woman at the Well.
Yep. That is a very accurate description of how that went down.
I think that's exactly how it happened. Yeah. Or not. Yeah, dude.
So, well, dude, you should probably, unpack, get some rest. Yeah, you've had a long week. Yeah. So.
I know. And the work keeps on coming, which is fun. So, friends, buckle up, because I believe it's this weekend is Memorial Day? Is that right? Labor Day? Which one happens? Memorial's in the spring, Labor Day's in the fall? I have the internet. I should look at this. It's a 3-day weekend, right? Is what I'm getting at.
I didn't know that.
Let's look. But that's
Probably
fine because
right.
we try to do this Tuesday.
Yeah.
What is Monday? Behold. Monday is Labor Day, so I'm working straight and then I'm off Monday, which is going to be a good time. I also have some interesting news that I can share with all of you here, and I hope it's going to be a fun story that I'll get to bring to the podcast, because on Saturday, your boy, it's Labor Day. Thank you, Chad. Your boy is taking a concealed weapons class for the state of Nevada on Saturday. And there's a bunch of different reasons why I'm doing that. But what is different about the last state that I had this license in, and this state that I hope to obtain this license in, is that you have to actually qualify for it. So there is some classwork followed by qualification, followed by the admittance exam from has to be a licensed and decorated NRA instructor that submits on your behalf all of the right information once you've gone through their accredited coursework and qualification test to, I believe, the sheriff's department. Where I came from, you just paid some dollar bills to the city police, and they took your fingerprints and they tried to take some of your pictures, which I don't know if we've discussed on this pod, but briefly they started profiling me by taking photographs of my tattoos. And I was like, this wasn't in the brochure. Why are you taking pictures of me? Oh, well, it's like, delete those. You don't get to have that. Like, what are you processing me? What is this? Anyway, the best part about this is that I got an email back that certifies that I'm part of this next class. I believe I'm the only person in this next class, and this is being held at this instructor's place of residence, which is also atypical. So they're like, we're still going to do it. You know, where we normally host these is under construction right now. So, you know, my partner that helps me with all this, it's this woman that was a former sheriff's department employee and an NRA instructor. And I looked her up. She's done some pretty accredited badass things. And I'll get into all of that after I go through the class, but not before. But her husband is like going to help her with it. So I think I'm just going to be chilling in somebody's living room, which makes it all the more weird. So we're stacking up to have some good content coming up next Tuesday, if we're still available next Tuesday. But I would encourage all of you to tune in for that. It's going to be fun, and to stay safe and have fun this 3-day weekend as you're out and about. Try and get your last minute camping in or whatever you got to do.
I'm gonna try to smoke something, a meat of some kind.
Yeah. Did you get the grill unpacked from the move, or are you still going through it?
No, I've got the smoker all ready to go, and then I've got the Blackstone all ready to go. I just don't have my regular barbecue out of the garage yet. So once I get that out of the garage, then it's up on the porch. I've got the trifecta of doom up there, and there ain't a thing that will come within a quarter mile that won't get smoked or cooked.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'm gonna reach out to some of the boys and see if any barbecuing can be had this weekend. It's supposed to be not 150 degrees, which is going to be nice. So I'm looking forward to it. But stay safe out there. Have fun. Hopefully I'll come back with some good content and a clean bill of health from this class, which came highly recommended and then got weirder and weirder as the email train continued to go.
I'll be honest, I'm a little worried for you.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what I'm kind of walking into, and I think I might be the only homie there. So this will be fun. Not your usual course. So hopefully it's great.
Wow.
Hopefully I see you Tuesday. Yeah, I realized that was occurring on Saturday, so I can't wait. It's going to be a good time.
I'm tattooing at a wedding on Sunday.
At a wedding? At the ceremony?
At the reception.
What?
So I'm setting up for, it's a favor to a friend.
You got to set the scene. Okay. Where is the wedding?
In Spirit Lake.
Okay.
So
nice.
I have it's a favor to Pastor Jason, one of our previous guests. It's a favor to his son Ian. who I've become very fond of, Ian, he needed to pull
Shout
some
out,
strings for another friend.
Sure.
You know, they've been trying to get a tattoo artist. The whole families are all into it, and so they were shopping around, and Ian's very reserved and has found himself with a very lovely girlfriend who
Sure.
has kind of brought him out of his shell. And so he's really been kind of opening up. And so Ian actually told his girlfriend's best friend, the one getting married, saying, hey, I might have an in. My family's pretty good friends with a really good tattooer in town. Let me ask him. And so, as a favor to Ian, I don't even know this family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going. I'll do it because Ian wants me to. And so, I actually have met with the family, and so we've come up with a bunch of designs. And so, I'm going to go up there and with preset designs. And they take about 10 minutes each, and I'm just gonna tattoo as many people who want to get tattooed, and I just get a kind of bulk fee. And then but yeah, Aaron and I are gonna go up, eat tacos at this wedding, and just hang out and tattoo for about 5 hours.
This sounds like a wedding I would love to go to. There's tacos, there's tattoos. It's gonna be great.
And the family's really cool too. Like I've gotten to meet the bride and then the father and mother-in-law, and so that are all kind of arranging this, and they're all really nice people. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, not what I thought you were gonna say, and I'm like, boy, I hope he doesn't have designs, and they're just gonna let him cook. And you're just gonna go up there and freehand some stuff and be like, this is gonna be sweet. You're not gonna regret this.
Everyone's getting Ninja Turtles and
that's right,
and skeletons, and yeah,
that's perfect. Only the ones you like get actual turtles. Everybody else gets like a foot ninja or something, a Krang, for reasons that nobody understands. It's gonna be awesome.
Not to dip back into the Olympics, but did you see the closing ceremonies of the Olympics?
No.
Okay, it was literally the Power Rangers, but like. Goldar was like the main character, and then they had a bunch of putty men, which are kind of like Foot Clan from the, but they all look like the putty people from the original Power Rangers series, like moving around just like them, and like
great.
And oh, dude, you should look it up.
I'm gonna watch it.
It was as weird, or if not weirder, than the opening ceremonies.
Beautiful.
So, just less symbolism and less trans people.
Sure.
As far as I know, I mean, all the putty people could have been trans.
Start weird and weird.
Yep, might as well. So, speaking of starting weird and ending weird, let's call it a night.
This show's been brought to you by. We're gonna go, guys. All right, friends. Hopefully, we see you all Tuesday. Stay safe out there. Have a good weekend. All the love.
Have a safe weekend, guys.
99.